after Zelensky humiliated himself in Turkey yesterday, everybody expected that Trump was going to, come out swinging, because the response that everybody was waiting for is that, Trump was going to come out and say, what? This is not right. Putin is not serious. We're going to put sanctions. We're going to put tariffs of 500% on those who exchange with Russia. We're going to give arms to Ukraine. And instead, this is the response that we got from Trump.
Donald Trump says he's not surprised by Vladimir Putin's no-show.
Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there.
Oh, man. We must understand that no matter what, no matter how many neocons and warmongers who surround Donald Trump, he's still not a warmonger. I talked about how Trump was not going to bomb Iran. Right now, we're talking about Trump negotiating with Iran. Trump made some threats against the Houthis. He tried to do something, but very quickly he stopped. Here's how we should understand the relationship between Trump and Putin. Vladimir Putin likes Trump. He likes Trump because Trump is not a warmonger. He's not a politician. Trump is a businessman. And Putin wants to do business with Trump. He understands that Trump is not someone who wants war. However, he also understands very well that Trump is the president of the United States, the country that wants to destroy Russia, the country that started this entire conflict in Ukraine. Putin knows very well that this has nothing to do with Ukraine, and it has everything to do with the United States and NATO. So, how to deal with Donald Trump? The way Putin is trying to go about this entire thing is to tell Trump, look, we can do business. You like business? We want to do business. Why don't we focus on doing business together? Forget about the Ukraine and Russia's conflict. But if you really want to do something for this conflict, then do not arm Ukraine and don't get involved. Because the reality is that the Russians are fighting NATO in Ukraine. Ukraine is only a proxy. Donald Trump as a person is okay with Putin. However, Donald Trump as the president of the United States cannot be a mediator in this conflict, because it is the United States that is funding this conflict, that started this conflict, that continues to push this conflict to the point where it is today. Which means that if Putin needs to make a decision, it's going to have to be in the interests of Russia. And for the interests of Russia to be taken in consideration here, Putin cannot just take a decision based on his personal feelings with Donald Trump. That is impossible. The reality here, and what Putin calls the root cause of this problem, is the United States that wants to take over Russia. That is what is going on here. So the major enemy here is the United States. And it is the United States that Russia is fighting, of course, with NATO. So the meeting between Putin and Donald Trump will be based exactly on that. Putin is going to tell Donald Trump, look, if you want to do business, let's do business. But if you want to stop this conflict, we do not want NATO in our border. The United States need to stop this long-term agenda of taking over Russia. Because you have to understand one thing. If Russia today accepts a 30-day ceasefire, the US will take this opportunity to rearm Ukraine. And even if they decide at the end that, look, we are stopping this conflict, 10 years from now, they will start again. That is why Vladimir Putin is making sure that if a decision will be taken to stop all conflict, that Russia is in a position where the United States will never again use Ukraine or any other neighboring countries of Russia to attack 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years from now. That's what's going on. So Donald Trump does not want to put sanctions or continue to arm Ukraine. He doesn't want that. But at the same time, he has to show that he's tough and that he's doing something. However, he likes, people to say, oh, well, it is Donald Trump who made it happen. So now he's saying, well, the only reason why Putin didn't go is because I didn't go, which is not true, right? Putin can care less whether Donald Trump goes or not. It's not going to change the fundamental issues, which is that NATO needs to stop its agenda of trying to push its border to Russia. It is not between Ukraine and Russia. This is why Russian President Putin is not going to sit down with Zelensky. They're not going to meet. You need to understand this. Even when we get to the point where someone needs to sign something, they're not going to meet. Because this fight is bigger than Ukraine. And this is also why Putin has not yet dropped a nuclear bomb in Ukraine. Because he understands that the Ukrainian population has been taken hostage by NATO and the neo-Nazis who are fighting for NATO. Donald Trump understands one thing, is that if he takes the wrong approach with Russia of putting sanctions and saying, well, I'm going to continue sending weapons, he is going to find himself in a losing position just like Biden found himself. Because when they all realize that even after the almighty Trump has tried to go against Putin and they did not succeed the same way that we saw them not succeeding against the Houthis, it's going to be a major embarrassment. And Trump does not like to be the loser. So the most important thing to do here is either to stop this conflict by stop arming Ukraine and stop NATO's ambition against Russia, or forget about this entire conflict, focus on having a better relationship with Russia and reopen the doors of diplomacy, and just hope that Russia will end this fight as soon as possible. That's the only position that Trump can have. The truth is that Trump does not have any leverage on Russia. So his response should not be surprising to many of us.